it's Dave, no recipe required, and we're gonna try purple carrot today. I'm actually pretty excited. Got a box just yesterday, and purple carrot is I think the first one I've tried, the first one I reviewed that is all plant-based meals. No animal anything in here. Just opened the box, pulled out. I got 3 recipes tonight. We're gonna do a fall vegetable ramen. They send their recipe cards kind of all come together. Let me find it. There we go. That's a beautiful picture of our fall ramen. We got some Brussels sprouts, some butternut squash, I think are going to be kind of the main vegetables in here. Some miso paste, some tamarind, some spice packages here. We're going to go ahead and cook this off. It says it only takes a half an hour, which is good because honestly, I only have half an hour to get this thing done, about 40 minutes or so. So I'm going to be watching the clock on this one. We're going to see how easy it is. We're going to see if it tastes good. We're going to see if there's any greats or not so greats in this whole shebang. And I'll give you my opinion along the way. Thumbs up, thumbs down. Let's go ahead and get started. Alright, let's go ahead and get started on our fall vegetable ramen. I've got some butternut squash here, and actually I like that they pre-chopped it for me. It's kind of a pain to peel and chop butternut squash. Looks like about maybe 2 to 3 cups worth. It says to add a drizzle of olive oil, a pinch of salt, a pinch of pepper, and then I've got my oven preheated to 425 per the directions. I'm going to toss the squash to get it all coated with a little bit of oil, and then I've got a baking sheet here. I just line mine with a little bit of foil. Parchment paper actually works really well. My preferred, but I don't have parchment paper. Not a big deal. And it says roast this until they're tender and just starting to caramelize a little bit for about 18 minutes. I've also got a pot of water started on the stove to bring to a boil for our noodles. Okay, so my butternut squash is in the oven. We're going to prep our other veggies here. Starting off with the Brussels sprouts. It says to trim the Brussels sprouts up. I actually I kind of toss the very root end, and then it says to peel and keep as many of the leaves as you can. Now, if you take enough of that bottom off, you'll be able to more easily peel leaves from the Brussels sprout. You got to kind of go in layers because they're stacked up a little bit, and then once you get a bunch of leaves off, it said you go as kind of deep as you can. You may have to keep working them. There we go, now they're coming. You may also have to kind of keep taking bits off. I think that's about as many leaves as I'm going to get out of this one, maybe 1 or 2 more. Then you're left with kind of the core of the Brussels sprout. You're getting down to really small leaves. It says go ahead and chop those and then just thinly slice them. I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to do that with the rest of these Brussels sprouts off camera. Brussels sprouts look pretty good. There's one with a pretty big blemish there, but everything else looks pretty good. Then it says to stack up. This is our Swiss chard, and thinly slice the leaves and the stems of the Swiss chard, which again we're going to go ahead and do. While the directions say to use the stems and the leaves, honestly, when you get down to the really thick stems for me, I know I'm not going to dig that, so I'm going to leave those off. I'm going to throw the leaves here. Then we're going to do our scallions. We got 2 scallions. Take off the very hairy ends right there. And then it says keep separate the whites and the greens, so we're going to thinly slice these white pieces. Throw them there. Separate from our green pieces. You know, you can cut it in half, double it up, and then you're chopping half the time. Okay, we're going to finish those off camera. Then there, we got some garlic. So they sent a whole bulb. For this recipe, we're only using 1 clove. Give it a little chop there. Take it out of the paper. That's a bit of an aggressive chop. Man, this is a tough piece of garlic. There we go. It says to thinly slice this. Mine's going to end up being kind of a chop because I crushed it a little too hard. Good enough though. There's our garlic. And then with the last bit of prep, we got a couple of these Thai chilies, which I'm sure are going to be nice and spicy. It says to slice those thin. And it also says wash your hands after doing this step, which is a good idea because these things are full of heat and they can definitely burn you. Burn your skin, burn your eyes if you touch your eyes. So I'm going to go ahead and finish all this prep work. We're going to come back and we're going to keep cooking. Alright, so our water came to a boil as we were doing our vegetable prep. These are the ramen noodles. Nice, they look like nice fresh noodles. They came, we're going to add them to the salted water. We're going to give them a little bit of a stir. They're not going to take long to cook. Directions say give them about a minute, which is all I'm going to do. We've got a colander set up. We're going to drain them once we get them cooked through. Alright guys, so I let these go for about 2 minutes. I'm going to kill the heat. We're going to give them just a quick taste. We still want them al dente. And these are good. So I'm going to take these, I'm going to drain them off and run them under cold water to stop the cooking process. Alright guys, so this is the same pot. We just boiled our, what did we do? Noodles in, our ramen noodles in. I'm going to add a little bit of vegetable oil into the pan. I might need a touch more. Here are our pieces of garlic we're going to add in. Our pieces of white scallion we're going to add in. And I'm going to use a spoon. Our pieces of chili. It says to add half of them. I tried one. These are smoking hot, right? So you got to make sure that you want them this hot before adding them in. I think our butternut squash is going to be just about done, so I'm going to go check on that. This is going to go for just a minute or so, and then we're going to come and add some water and some of our flavorings. All right, so you don't want to brown, or even you certainly don't want to burn your garlic in the pot. We've got there some red miso paste, which we're going to add in. We've got, I'm going to put it right in there. I got a little paste on my arm. Then we've got some tamarind. We're going to add that in there as well. And then I've got a cup of water. This is what I just put my miso spoon into. Just going to rinse the spoon off, make sure we get as much of that miso as possible in there. Add it to our pot. That was a cup of water, and then I've also got, grab a whisk, a handy whisk, and we're going to take about a minute or so and just whisk the miso, the tamarind, make sure it all dissolves. Over to the side here, I've got our butternut squash, which I just pulled out. It's got just a few little brown bits to it. You can see that. It is tender. You can take a little knife and just do a little knife test to it. You want some of those crispy edges. I'm going to just let this dissolve for another minute, and we're going to come back, add a little bit more water for our stock. Okay, between the whisk and the spoon here, I think we've got our miso dissolved. It says to go ahead and add another 1.5 cups of water and a bit of seasoning. It says a 1/4 teaspoon of salt. I don't measure salt. We're going to add that in. You do probably have to be careful with the miso in there though. And it says to bring this up to a boil. Okay, so once we got our broth boiling, it says simmering. We'll call it simmering. We're going to go ahead and add the chopped Brussels sprouts. These are the leaves that we're going to add at the same time, and the Swiss chard leaves. We're going to let those all cook. It says for about a minute until they turn bright green. Definitely, if you go much longer than that, it is they're going to turn kind of dull green. So you don't want to let them go much longer than a minute for sure. You're just trying to get them wilted, cooked down, softened up a bit. Okay, so our veggies now have cooked for about a minute. You can see they are that kind of nice bright green. Everything is softened. We kill the heat per the directions. We got half a lime here. I'm going to squeeze half a lime worth of juice over it. We're going to go ahead and give that just a quick stir, and then give it a taste for salt. I'm going to go here. I'm going to go ahead with a little more lime juice, a little bit more salt. Definitely getting some punch from that. What do you call it? Chili. Okay. And I've got my butternut squash over here. I got our broth. I got our noodles. Let's go go ahead and plate this guy up. Alright guys, so let's go ahead, plate up our ramen. We've got our noodles here. Easiest way for me is just go in there with your hands. If they end up sticking on you could always throw a little bit of oil on them, but I actually just give them another quick rinse, and they will become, they'll come separate off again. We'll just dry our thing a little bit. Here we've got our hot steaming broth. We'll go ahead and ladle that on there. Let's get some, I'm not sure there's quite enough broth in here for it. We'll go just to the top of the noodles. We'll do our other one. That is hot, hot, hot. Alright, here we go. Yeah, I'd say the broth was a little bit light. I'd probably add a little bit more water. But you know, that's going to also dilute the flavor a little bit. We've got our butternut squash here roasted. I'm going to add a good couple handfuls of that. I love the butternut squash. Our Thai chilies, you know, again, gotta go a little bit easy on those. They are super hot, but I like them, so I'm gonna add them. I think my wife doesn't dig them so much, so I'm gonna leave hers de-chived, or what do you call those, chilies? And then, interesting here, I've never seen this smoked nori seasoning. It says to sprinkle on the ramen. I'm gonna go ahead and do that. I'm gonna give this a little taste. Kind of sesame seed. Definitely some smoke on there. And then we've got our wedges. We took the other half of the lime and and just chopped them into wedges. And there you go with that. So that's our fall vegetable ramen. Let's go ahead and give it a taste. All right, so this is our purple carrot fall vegetable ramen. As I taste it, the broth, it actually improves quite a bit once you get some of the roasted, what do you call this, butternut squash in there. That adds a nice little sweetness to it. The lime in there. There is not, for me, there's not quite enough broth in here. I would have liked a little bit more, but the taste is okay. Doesn't quite have the rich flavor depth that you get from like a long cooking broth. That's kind of obvious. It took about half an hour to make. So, you know, for me this was a bit of a, definitely thumbs leaning towards up. I think a few more spices would add a little bit more complexity. You definitely get some heat in there. I'm getting it right now. I like the lime, how you can adjust the little toppings at the end. That makes it, you know, fun to me. So go ahead, give it a try. Let me know what you think. I'll throw a link to the to purple carrot in the description, and I will see you next time on No Recipe Required. Alright, that was purple carrot fall vegetable ramen. Pretty damn tasty, vegetarian, although I could have used a little bit more broth. Let me know what you think in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe and check out my other reviews, and I'll see you next time on No Recipe Required.